Welcome to the Power of Mindset podcast, episode number 21. This is Hayk, I'm your host. I want to dive into a recording I want to do on a topic that came up on a couple of coaching calls I've had recently with a couple of my peers in the business. And this is something that actually follows home. And I always talk about work is not that separate from what you do in personal life, and your personal life is not that separate from what you do at work. But specifically on a topic of respect. Respect in not just workplace, but also overall, generally speaking, because I'm noticing, I don't know if it's an economical thing or if it's, we're going from this greed market to this fear market where people are more anxious. Maybe they're a little bit more fear driven. And when people are more fear driven, they tend to be more emotional. So there might be a little drama happening in work atmospheres and maybe even happening at home. But here's something I want to talk about as far as my thoughts on a good conversation I had one of my peers who felt like there was a little bit of disrespect happening within his organization. And a question he was asking me is like, I feel like some of my leaders are being disrespectful, not to me, even towards the office. Maybe I have the wrong people in there. And my question always goes back to, for whatever the environment you're noticing. Okay, is it an outcome of what you're producing? Is it more of what you're creating, or is it creating something on its own? Because in many cases, when a leader notices something, often it's a response to the leadership style. As in, it's the condition of a mindset you're putting into your workplace or could be in your personal life. And my question to this peer was, do you respect yourself? And he's like, what do you mean? Well, if you feel like you're not being respected, people are not taking you seriously, you're leading a group of people and you're not sensing that they're taking leadership as far as respect of a leader to a level that you want them to take. Question to you again, do you feel like you respect yourself? He's like, absolutely, yes. I'm like, okay, so there's a way to actually measure that. And I'll tell you this. I'm like, do you work out? Well, I used to, kind of things got busy. I had to put that on the back burner. I can't let others down. I'm busy. So I kind of had to do that at the cost of letting myself down. But the truth is, there's a reason why on an airplane, when the air pressure drops, the oxygen masks come down, you have to put it on yourself first. Because when you put it on yourself first, now you have a healthy person that can save dozens of lives versus, you're not looking after yourself and all of a sudden now you're struggling to save actually even one person. So there's a little bit of selfishness when you're trying to help others and lead. So again, when I said, do you respect yourself? He's like, well, I do. But I'm like, well, you disrespected yourself by cutting out and letting yourself down, cutting workouts out. And now you feel like you're letting others down. That's why you don't spend any time on yourself. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, let me tell you something. And this is something specifically for me. And for the last, 3, 4 years, things have gotten good in business enough where people are like, what's going on? What changed? Right. So I had to do certain things in my life as far as selfish things that gave me confidence, things that I had to respect myself for others to respect me better so I can lead better. And instead of leading from the, middle and the back, I was actually starting to lead from the front where my team admired and looked up to certain things that I was doing. So, and specifically, right, you can talk about the word respect, but what do you do for others to be inspired by you, to want to respect you by choice, not you demanding respect? The problem is when people start demanding respect, it's too late. So what do you do? And I always go back to saying, how hard do you work out? Because when I really work out hard, there's a sense of respect I developed for myself. And when I started actually doing intentional workouts where I had committed to my coach, I'm going to run Boston Marathon. And, I couldn't just train harder, but the commitment I had was I wouldn't skip a session. As in every session he'd give me, I would follow through and I wouldn't skip. And as long as I did it, results came in where, again, somebody with a childhood trauma, and many of you listeners might have something in your childhood too that you might not even diagnose, but you might have something that's taking certain sense of respect away from yourself, as in you feel like you're not good enough. And I think most of us have a story where we didn't fit in, we got rejected. Something happened where we have a stain in our heart. Well, what do you do to bring certain things back in your life to bring you confidence? Because the harder I train, the more confident, the more respect I have for myself. So if I want others to respect me, how the heck do I expect that without respecting myself? Too many people are reading all these books about how others are doing it, how they're developed sense of respect, sense of, motivation and positivity. They're reading about how others do it, but they don't want to do it themselves. Why? Oh, it's too much work. trust me, it's actually less work than reading all these books about other people doing it. Because I know so many people who are into the self-help industry, they're reading a book a week, book a month. I've heard people reading a book a day. But it's like, what are you doing with some of the very basics in there? Because the very basics of common thread among all those books, which is built on the message of the Bible, don't judge, be kind, be courteous, be forgiving, work hard, be diligent, be family oriented, don't be caught up in material. It's all the same. But generally speaking, most of them say wake up early, do some workout, take a nice ice plunge, go to work, listen to your peers, bring value, go home, try to listen to your spouse, play with your kids, repeat, do the same thing over and over and over. Don't be distracted by the silver coin. And that's a piece where too many people are caught up on studying other people's way of them finding themselves and they're not doing it for themselves. But again, it goes back to fix your fitness, it'll fix your business. Fix your fitness, it fixes marriage. I had so many talent within my specific business where I volunteered to pay for their gym membership and I was pushing them to work out. They're like, what does this change? One workout, nothing. Two, nothing. 6 months later, things are changing. Year, they don't recognize themselves. Everything changed. Magically, they make more money. Same thing with business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders and CEOs. It's like, is working out, training, running a marathon the answer? No, but it's a big part of you discovering more about yourself because the more you learn about the best tool you have, which is you, the better you can use it. And you really don't know what you're made of until you really push yourself. And I don't know who this quote is by. It goes something like this: treat the body so rigorously that it never disobeys the mind. As in push, like run a mile and then two and then three, go work out, bench press, add weight, squat, add weight, and keep doing it over and over to the point where you're telling the body who's the boss. Because in many ways, there's a healthy relationship between your body and your mind. And your mind has to tell your body to obey. If it does not, well, where does that go? What does it look like when you put on an extra 20, 30 pounds? How does it feel to know that that's happening? It's a very foreign thing for us to carry all that fat around that we shouldn't. Again, we're too caught up on trying to fix other issues, but reality, we fix ourselves. You demanding respect, well, go fix, let your body figure out a way to give you respect. So I always go back and tell leaders, do something that you respect yourself so much that others can't help but to respect you. Kind of connects to one of my favorite quotes by Walt Disney. Do something so well that people can't help but to tell others about you. Well, do something so difficult and push yourself so you can't help but to respect yourself, and others will not be able to avoid the fact that you respect yourself so much and they start respecting you too. So lead by example, be the change that you want to see. Stop looking for the answer somewhere else in somebody else's book. Write your own story. Commit to that difficult thing, which leads me to the next point I wrote down. There is a Japanese pilgrimage. It's called misogi. So once a year they get together, they do pilgrimage to these mountains where they take ice baths, as in like it's like a very frozen lake. They go dip in there, and apparently, from what I've read, it's a very difficult pilgrimage to get there. It's very hard. It takes a whole day. The idea is to do this once a year, and it's so difficult to do this that it becomes the most difficult thing you do all year. So the other 364 days are impacted by this one day. And I think that's a very powerful thing to think about, this misogi tradition that they have in Japan. And they've had this for a long time, by the way. It's nothing new. And the culture is built around respect, honor. I mean, if you read more about the Japanese history, they are some of the most hardcore, culturally driven society when it comes to respect. And if this society came up with a thing called misogi, where you have to rigorously treat your body at least once a year, do something very difficult. Now, to be able to do something that difficult once a year, you have to train. Which, again, maybe not every single one of us can fly out to Japan and do this pilgrimage or do something difficult here. Commit to that one marathon, commit to that 5K, do that Spartan race. Whatever it is that's going to require you to have an uncomfortable process to maintain your fitness and your health, to be able to work your way up to that one difficult thing. I promise you the whole year will change. If the next year's of if 2024 is the year where you're okay, this is the year I'm going to make a difference. I was waiting for the calendar to tell me it is time to make a difference in my life because of this New Year's resolution, which is why gyms are packed for the first 2 months of the year and then they die off by the end, which is absolutely ridiculous. But okay, fine. Let's just say you're using 2024 as the excuse why you didn't do something last year, but calendar said so. Okay, calendar said so. Commit to doing something very difficult mid to third quarter of this year. And I've used the story before how I bought my first marathon thinking I couldn't run a few miles. And I'm not saying that's the answer, but really assess yourself. Do you like hiking? Commit to a difficult hike with a group of friends. Do you like working out? Commit to showing up to a weightlifting competition. Do you like, arm wrestling? Commit to going to a competition of that, right? So what is a difficult thing that's gonna make you uncomfortable? And I'm not saying it built an addiction towards doing uncomfortable things. I'm just talking about do one difficult thing a year. And I promise you this, for me, you know, as much as I enjoy triathlons, there's a piece of that I can't stand, which is the swim. For me, the hardest thing is actually marathon. For me, after 26 miles, my legs are dead. I feel much better after a 70.3, which takes me 5 hours to do. Marathon takes me 3. Well, that 3 hour destroys me more. Why? Because it's 3 hours of constant pounding and running, and I'm have this weird competitive nature that do it as fast as I can. I can't walk for 2 days, right? So what does that marathon do? It improves the other 364 days, as the message from Misogi speaks. So what do you do rigorously to keep yourself uncomfortable, to have your mind give your body respect, have your body give your mind respect, so you don't have to demand for respect, for recognition, for success from others and study others? Because the greatest gift we have is our own tool, right? Our own body, our own selves, our own mind. And unfortunately, we're looking for it elsewhere. So, since we're on the subject of respect, you want others to respect you, respect yourself first. And when you do difficult things that you control, the difficult things intentional versus the difficult things that are unintentional. Well, you do a workout, you show up to work, and something happens, right? But you did something a lot more difficult. Does that difficult thing seem to be as difficult? Well, you came to work kind of recover and rest. So, and I've noticed a significant pattern amongst people who do something in the mornings, as in CrossFit or run or workout. They tend to handle the same issue that everybody else complains about slightly better. Slightly, not 100 times better. It's like, dude, you're an ultra marathon runner. I can't believe you handled that issue so poorly. Well, they still handle it slightly better than you. And you multiply that by 365 days, small issues multiplied by small increments, compound interest of time. That is a big difference in a year. So my message to you, the short recording, you want others to respect you and recognize you. You want others to see the things about you that you want them to see. Instead of demanding it, show it. Respect yourself. Treat your body rigorously. So make sure that the mind respects your body and your body respects your mind. And therefore, others will respect you too. Cheers.